How's it going, everybody? This is Jeremy here with another episode of Quantified Theory, this one on card evaluation. Before we get started, like the video, subscribe to my channel if you want to see new content, and support me on Patreon if you're able. I just did a revamp, so there will be some exciting new stuff going on there, including but not limited to the gameplay on the first and third Saturdays of each month. I'm going to do some live streaming and some exclusive content. There's also going to be some sweet merch going on just as rewards for my Diamond tier patrons. And with that, let's get into it. So on multiple occasions, I think I've kind of talked about the 4 core measurements, which I wrote an article on, but I wanted to do a video just so I can kind of put my voice behind this. This has been a metric that is over 2 years in the making. I've talked to quite a few experienced Magic players. I've listened to a lot of content, and this is kind of what I've come up with as a result. So we're going to start with this. So the 4, you know, because I've done this in multiple videos up to this point: utility, efficiency, synergy, and opportunity, and those 4 together are going to show you what your power level is. So utility is how much does this card do, efficiency is how much does it cost to do it, synergy is does it work with my deck or commander, and opportunity is how often can you do it. So if you're looking at those as the 4 core measurements, we're going to actually get into each one individually, and we'll show you exactly how that works. Alright, so the long-awaited moment for my fellow Quandrix people. This is the formula that I use, or at least the basic model of it, that I use to evaluate cards. So it is utility, whether or not it's repeatable. So when we're talking about utility, it is going to be how much does the card do. So the 4 core measurements, or the 4 essential functions, are worth a full point, and non-essential functions are worth 0.33. And whether or not each of those are repeatable, right? And that number, whatever that is, times the synergy, so it's a yes or no, which in programming language is just 0 or 1, right? Times opportunity, so how often can you play it, over the efficiency, so the mana value of the card. So this is an extraordinarily basic, as I said, the basic formula for measuring a card. And this gives you an actual number when you're done with it, which is super cool. And I have honestly used this to spec on cards and have been right more often than I've been wrong. So yeah, this is an effective method of evaluating a card if you know what all of the definitions are and how exactly to plug the numbers in. So let's actually break down those 4 core measurements, because my goal in this is to teach you exactly how that formula works. So how much does the card do, right? So your essential functions are draw, ramp, removal, and sweepers. And then you have your non-essential functions. So as I said, essential functions are valued at 1 point, non-essential functions valued at 0.33. Kenrith, the Returned King, as we have learned, as far as the essential and non-essential functions are concerned, he has 1 repeatable essential function and 4 repeatable non-essential functions. So each of those non-essential functions is worth 0.33, and they are repeatable, so we give them an extra certain value per. The essential functions worth a full point, whether or not they're repeatable. You kind of get it at that point, right? So the utility, how much does the card do? Essential and non-essential functions is what that's divided into. Next, we'll talk about efficiency. How much does the card cost? So Mind's Eye and Thunderherd Migration are going to be our 2 examples here. So Mind's Eye is a 5-cost artifact. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may pay a colorless. If you do, you draw a card. And so this only counts as card draw once it has both replaced itself and drawn an additional card. So this is 7 mana to draw to count as card draw. So that is the point at which we evaluate it, is when has it fulfilled its essential function. So it is 7 mana to draw 2 cards. That is not great. I wouldn't advise for the most part playing this card unless you somehow manage to combo it with some weird synergy. Moving on. Thunderherd Migration, 1 and a green for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast the spell, reveal a dinosaur card from your hand or pay 1. So again, we're evaluating this at the overall, so that would be 3 mana if you are not in Dinosaur Tribal, so you need to have 25 or more of a thing for it to count as Dinosaur Tribal, which we'll talk about in a second actually. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tab, shuffle your library. So to count as ramp, this counts as 3 or 2 depending on your deck. So efficiency, how much does it cost? What is the mana value to get the effect that we are looking for? Next we're going to talk about synergy, and synergy is pretty simple. Does it work with your deck or your commander? So Teysa Karlov is an example that we're going to use. It is a 2 white and black legendary creature human advisor. It is a 2/4. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Creature tokens you control have vigilance and lifelink. So a great example of a synergistic card with this would be Pitiless Plunderer. It is a 3 and a black creature human pirate. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token with tap. Sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. It is a 1/4. So Pitiless Plunderer does in fact work with Teysa because they are talking specifically about a creature dying in Teysa's case, and a creature you control dies in Pitiless Plunderer's case. So we are talking basically an aristocrats type build, or some other sacrifice, which usually just means aristocrats. Alright, next we'll talk about opportunity, which is how often can you use a card or effect per turn cycle. So As Foretold is a 2 and a blue enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on As Foretold. Once each turn you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast with converted mana cost X or less, where X is the number of time counters on As Foretold. So this note, it says once each turn, not on each of your turns. That's a pretty important part of the effect. So basically this per turn cycle, you can use it on your turn and 3 other turns in a classical 4-person pod. So this counts for 4 times as good as if it said once on each of your turns. Morbid Opportunist is 2 and a black creature. Human Rogue, it is a 1/3. Whenever 1 or more other creatures die, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. So notice again, it says once each turn, not once on each of your turns. So with that, it kind of, how often can you use it per turn cycle? It happens 4 times each turn cycle. Rampant Growth is a 1 and a green sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So this is sorcery speed, which means you can only do it once and only during your turn. So that would be a 1 out of 4. Alright, so coming back to our basic formula, right? We have kind of gone over what each of the different things is. So utility, it's how much does it do. Synergy, does it work with your commander and the rest of your deck? At least 25 cards in the deck. Opportunity, as far as like on how many times during a single turn cycle can you use it. And efficiency being the mana value. So with that, you can kind of move forward and evaluate cards with an exact numerical quantity if you really want to. That's kind of my deal, right? Commander quantified. So that will give you an opportunity to try this out for yourself. And now it's that time in our show where we do our favorite flavor text that pertains in some way to the actual subject at hand. This one is Wrecking Beast. It is a 5 green creature beast with Riot. So it enters the battlefield with my choice of a +1/+1 counter, or haste, has trample, and is a 6/6. Kind of fun, but the thing we're here for is the flavor text. The best construction makes the most satisfying destruction. So construct your decks well, destroy other decks well. That's what we're going for here. And lastly, just a quick reminder, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, support me on Patreon if you're able. Again, some great new perks and some great merch going to be coming your way with the new revamped logo and such. If you would like, you can find me on Twitter at CQCrunch. I post relatively regularly, maybe once or twice a day. Just deck lists and stuff like that, but I am happy to help you out with a deck if you need it. And yeah, catch you on the flip side.